Welcome. Thank you. I'm Karen M. McDonald, and I am so grateful that it's Friday. So let's get excited. Now, let's get excited. We're going to start here, and we are going to be able to, hopefully, without any storms, because we had storms last weekend, and now I've had 2-3 days of intense storms. There's been over easily 15,000 lightning strikes, kind of direct energy things hitting our ground all over the place. So if you're in the lower part of where I am in the Kootenays or into what you call the Pacific Northwest, oh my gosh, lots of stuff is going on. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that we're going to do today. It is an amazing week. There's so much to go over. So we'll go into that, but I really want to go into some of what I call neuro reset. We call it neuroplasticity. We're talking about the brain. We're talking about what? Your 6, 7 chakras, your pineal, your pituitary, your 6 and 7 chakra. We'll talk about nausea. We're talking about all sorts of things. We're talking about resetting the brain. Part of the problem is that how many people have been having not great sleep, insomnia, disturbed sleep. And what we're going to do, we're going to talk about using smoother transitions to get into the sleep states, to support the brain rhythm, the flexibility, and get into a deeper, more consistent type of nighttime routine and relaxation. Part of it is getting the brain to meditate. Part of it is to do it naturally. Part of it is to get rid of our mental, like I call it the monkey brain, right? Monkey chatter, right? And a lot of people are not able to meditate. And I'm one that does not like to meditate in groups at all, ever. I like it totally quiet, let my brain function. And the minute I start hearing people breathing in a room, it sets me off. So not everyone can do that. And we have to look at different alternatives for different people. So what we need to do is manage the stress. We've got to support our nervous system, the vagal nerve, the peripheral nerve, our senses. We've got 12 different senses. Now they told you how many do we have? 5 senses, 6 senses, right? How about when you look at Dr. David Martin? He'll talk about the 12 senses. If you haven't seen a Dr. Martin talk on the 12 senses, you are in for something. It's kind of mind-blowing, right? We need to return to that balance, to that homeostasis, and get the clarity, get the focus, and being adaptable. These days, it's all about adaptability, isn't it? Because we want to be able to perform better. And this is part of the issues that are going on with people right now, because a lot of people just do not have the energy, the focus, or stuff along that line. So we're going to talk about different things on why. I want to talk a little bit about what devices can do. These are not AI. They are not into the biosensors. And contrary to popular belief, there actually are different devices out there that can stimulate the brain through just light and sound. And what this can do is not only enhance the creativity, the mental clarity, but again, I'm talking about neuroplasticity and also cognitive flexibility, because that's what neuroscience is when you can combine technology and neurostimulation. You're actually on a computer listening to me. I'm in the middle of a room with no one else here talking to a piece of metal with this like little light looking at me. But these are things that can help unlock more of the brain's potential. So we talk a little bit about different things. One is called neuro engagement. And what we can do, we can talk about the light stimulation. So we're not, flickering here and putting you under like, some interrogation, right? This type of thing. What we can do is we can use what's called gentle flicker technology. And gentle flickering of light while the eyes are closed can actually activate the brain, because you can induce just the right amount of stimulation to get the brain out of stuck patterns. And once you do this, this is where you're encouraging the brain to explore new patterns. We used to do this, and that's why in neonatal, they always said, don't worry. If there's been some brain damage or stuff like that, we can develop new neural pathways, new collateral circulations. And this is working along the same line of this, because it helps the brain respond to everyday challenges. And that's what you want to do. You want to improve your mood. How many of you want a better mood? I always want to be in a better mood. And all of us could use really enhancing some of our mental performance these days. So that's why I love working. The power of sound and light together is incredible. It's exponential. And this is where you get the brain entrainment and brain engagement. Okay, so one of these things here are by using audio tones, audio pulses, and soundscapes is another sort of buzzword you're hearing these days. And that can support a deeper immersion into synchronizing the brain activity and reinforce basically the mental state that we all want to be at. So a lot of things in here, the brain is like a muscle. You need to be able to, use it, stimulate it. It's not just a novel thing, but we want to boost our flexibility and do this by, again, working those muscles. Okay. And just doing the old way of doing stuff, let's just meditate, let's just do breath work, stuff like that. That doesn't work really well for a lot of people. And a lot of times I've actually found when I've been, trained and did, we were talking about breath work and all this sort of thing and somatic, entrainment sort of thing, getting, the mental emotional part going. I actually saw people put people into worse states than they came in. And that's another thing I want to address later, because that is old technology. The new stuff, the buzzword is neuroplasticity. And that's what we want to do. We want to deliver rich light and sound. And the sensory basically helps the brain form new connections and break repetitive thought patterns. In other words, when you have, let's say, post-traumatic stress disorder or cognition or emotional meltdowns, or a lot of people, they get triggered. So what we want to do is we want to be able to break that thought pattern and not just, do it. You want to basically get a real mental growth here. So this is one of the things that's really, really important here. They have been doing EEG studies to show that these things improve sleep, and they improve what's called brain signal variability, also heart rate variability. Did you know your brain and your heart talk through the autonomic system? And that's what we want to do. We want to basically be able to reduce some of that issue, because what we can do is we can analyze not only the EEGs, but the EKGs or ECGs. And so what we have found is statistically, there is basically major improvement in the heart rate variability. And that's basically often, let's say, when you feel like triggered or you're in stress, or people that have panic attacks, they just freeze. The heart just goes like you tighten. And so this is one of the things that we want to get into a more state of variability, of adaptability in here. So this is one of the things that I want to talk about in here, because this is where you can go into where there's no time, no distance, no space, and you kind of fade into this light show and sound show very effortlessly. There's no major stress or, requirement of active participation. You're sitting there passively. And this is where the boundaries can dissolve into a sense of awareness, and where subconscious thoughts can actually surface through stimulating and shifting these sensory perceptions, because it becomes a journey. And this is one of the things that I think is absolutely amazing in here. Now, what we've found is that basically scientists, and not just me, but have discovered that basically the 40 hertz, which is where your brain is at gamma, once you stimulate some of the gamma, you are reducing harmful amyloid plaques in the brain. Did you know that? I'll just say that again. When you stimulate the brain gently into a really nice, soft gamma 40 hertz stimulation, is that basically you're decreasing the inflammatory pathways. So what does that translate to today? It means less stress. And as you think about mucoid and amyloid plaques, what happens? We start seeing brain fog. We start seeing Alzheimer's, dementia, arteriosclerosis, all those things in here. So what we know is if we can do this, we've actually had things show that we are seeing people with dementia and cognitive issues basically within a month start actually improving. That's huge. And I've seen it myself. I've seen clients that were actually misdiagnosed, with dementia or presenile dementia, things like that. And boom, start doing this. And in a couple of weeks, they were basically normal like you and I. So one of the new things that's come out too is I'll talk a little bit about the flicker technology. The other thing is that there's a new one. It's a red light. And basically it's called the NEUROVIZR. We got the regular one, or we have what came into the red rouge. Rouge obviously means red en français. So basically what we're seeing is that we are evolving over time, and that sometimes just doing red light therapy can actually improve some of the mind stimulation as well. And so this is one of the things, we have a theater in our mind going on, at least I do. Anyway, and basically when we start exploring this, we are basically going pre-verbal, and now we're going into rhythm, light, shape, and sound, which you would call basically sacred or neurogeometry or geometry, sacred geometry, right? Things along that line. So the specific wavelength of that visible light spectrum while your eyes are closed is a biological, almost like a gateway here. And one of the ones that we're using is the 670 nanometer wave spectrum here. And we're seeing how it's probably one of the best ones that interact with actually the human and the eyes and the vision. So the eyelid's actually not actually a barrier. A lot of times if we close it, you don't see black unless it's totally brought up and you close it, right? What it is, it's more, the eyelids act as a filter, and they're allowing basically certain wavelengths to pass through and others that they're not. They're scattering it. So basically, the longer the wavelength, such as in deep red light therapy, is that the less is scattered by the tissues and can pass through compared to something with a shorter wavelength. So we want a longer wavelength in here. So this is why it feels really, really different here. So what you're seeing is in the deep red light therapy, the longer the wave at the end of that visible light spectrum, I'll show you these in a few minutes, is that it's really unique. And so this allows for a better transmission, and it's a cleaner signal without incoherence. So that's basically what we want to do. We want to see what's going on here. So I thought this is pretty cool, because what's happening is a lot of people are not sleeping anymore. And, you know, I've texted back and forth with Dr. Jack Kruse. He's pretty amazing. If you're not on Dr. Kruse's things, take it with a grain of salt. But when he's talking about magnetics and pole shift and MK Ultra, he was a former neuroscientist and neurosurgeon. He goes, I'm out of here. I'm going to El Salvador where the light is, man. So anyway, he's got some amazing stuff, but on the circadian rhythm, bang on about talking about what's going on in here. So we want to be able to get back the system or your body into a state of circadian compatibility, right? And so this is where one of the cool things happens in that, because right now, when the brain starts receiving signals and becomes basically the painter, you're bringing all those visible light spectrums in, is that the eye then can actually create its own experience, basically. And so there's one thing about wavelength, another thing about frequency, and another where your brain's at here. So this is actually a very cool thing. So I thought you guys would probably enjoy this. This is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about this in here. So I'll just check in the thing here, and there we go. Siva's in here. How are you? Dr. Martin on the 12th. Census, absolutely. Jill Roy's in here. Karen, happy to be here live. I've had a monkey brain all my life. I haven't. I'm one of those people, it's like locked in. I feel like the elephant, right? But part of it too is it's overactive. And that's why I really like, you know, because they can take lots of information in, but you got to be able to really come to center point and really ground to be able to do it. A lot of people go, I don't know how you're doing it. Anyway, one of the things is in the chat room here from Mendy the Hoop. Can you tell it's Friday? Sorry, Mendy the Hoop. That means coming back to the sacred circle, guys, the feminine stuff. Anyway, when you stimulate the brain into 40 hertz, you're decreasing the inflammatory pathways. Exactly. So there's less stress on the system. So that's one of the things I wanted to kind of show you here. And it's a little bit of an anatomy lesson, but it's more exciting about, like, let's take a look at what we got here. So one of the things in here, we'll take a look, and hopefully you will see this. Look at this. There's the NEUROVIZR. Okay. I'm talking about that visible light spectrum coming through. Okay. And so one of the things in here that's so important is that deep red light can get in from the environment and then start stabilizing a coherent field. One of the things also, and I'm just talking on the eyes, things that you can do, a lot of people are combining, and don't do it while you're doing the therapy, but do it outside at least half an hour. Things like DSMO, pearl powder, castor oil, frankincense, cedarwood along the eyes. And again, the more alkaline you are, when your pH on the urine first thing in the morning flips on that pH paper, litmus paper, and it flips to purple, guess what you're going to be doing? Yep, you're opening up all those neural pathways. So this is one of the things in here, and that's why it's important, is to be able to bring in that red light spectrum. Isn't that cool? I thought, well, this is pretty neat, because that's why every different spectrum feels different here. And again, very, very important that we take a look at this. So these are some of the things, again, we want to be able to not only look at, but we're going to be able to share with our clients and our friends and our loved ones and different people around us, the community tribe here. And again, there's the 670 nanometer, because it's going in. And again, this is the red light therapy. I'll talk about some of the other therapies as well. But what you're doing is there's less scattering. In other words, it's more focused coming through there. So this is a really cool kind of thing. If you haven't taken a look at it, that's why we are going in and going, you know what, this stuff is really cool. This is like really, really different. So what are some of the things that we see in here, right? And a lot of people haven't seen these. These are amazing. And this flicker technology is absolutely delicious, you know, because you're sitting there listening to the music and you're getting the flickering light technology. So again, there is a science on here. And one of the things, like I said, when you're onto this type of thing, let's take a look at what we're doing here. You got a black screen. Okay, let's try that back. And you got to remember, I think we're having storm stuff in here. So we'll take a look and we'll go back in here in just a second. Now, one of the things too is that when we're looking at some of the different science behind some of this and on flicker technology, we will take a look at this. Let's take a look here. Hopefully you'll see it. One is you're trying to do stimulation. And remember, I'm talking about the eyes are closed, you're in a rhythm. Now, this can be, again, a white light, or we can do it. So it's light pulsing. So it's taking the sound and it's actually converting the sound into light. So you're getting not only the sound codes, the hemisync, the holosync, but you're also getting the light. And let me tell you, when you're underneath these, and if it bothers you, you can keep it at a distance. You don't have to keep it by your eyes. You could put a little bit of a piece of fabric or tissue paper in front of it. And this is to stimulate it. But while your eyes are closed, you're actually going to be able to start seeing the actual lights and sacred geometry. It is very, very, very wild to see some of this. So again, this is what we want to do, is get into the neuroplasticity and stuff like that. And again, a lot of people, they might be new terminology to you, but from an anatomy point of view, it actually works really, really great. So we will go in and just take a look at here. So buzzwords, again, activating neuroplasticity with light and sound. And again, using the 12 senses, using several of them. So you're doing a multi-system, multi-sensory therapy all at the same time. And that's what you want to do. You want to rewire to break up those negative emotions, negative work. How does it work? What are the cases that we're looking at? And going in here, it's quite an experience. Like I said, this is some of the new neuro insights. So what you're seeing in here is that we're going into, like we said, into the gamma. And that's what we want to do. We want to go into here. And again, it's something that's really simple. It's an app. Let me tell you, when I have looked at some of these things here over the years, a lot of these things are probably, I'd say $4,000 to $6,000, $7,000. This particular one I'm talking about at NEUROVIZR is actually about $600 on sale right now. So those are some of the things, I really wanted to get, through to people, because this is really, really important, why we can get some of this stuff working in here. And when you see the kind of differences that we, what we see out there, it's I was going to say a no-brainer, but anyway, pardon the pun. But anyway, those are some of the different things we wanted to go into. So there we want to take a look and say, well, how does this work? Why does this work? What can we do about this? How can we help people around here? And I want to go into some of these things again about enhancements. And that's why I use the Genius biofeedback, with also using it for going into how would I say this? As a multidisciplinary, stimulation in here. And again, a lot of people do this. This is called the light or sound microdosing. So this is without taking any psychedelics, that people have been able to, go here and take a look at the changes within their lives. And I mean, I know a lot of people that do it every night, and they're saying all you need is a minimum. When they did this, comparing this to some of the more expensive ones or other things, is that what you'll see is that the brain health and everything else is coming back into par with less than, get this, 11 minutes of stimulation. So where else can you do that and start experiencing a change? And I've been using it simultaneously with all my clients actually right now, just to be able to see that. So those are some of the things that you might want to take a look at, because honest to gosh, it is just absolutely amazing. And so one of the things in here, I think, we need to take a look and see, wow, what do we have here? What is available? What can we do here? How can we make a difference? Because we need to use these technologies, because a lot of the things is that, again, it's not about using AI. And this has probably been the biggest things that a lot of people do not seem to get. And they are becoming almost paranoid about using anything with light or sound. These are not using biosensors. This is no different than sitting under red light therapy at your home, or multicolors in your home, and listening to binaural beats or hemisync. So this is one of the things, like I said, a lot of people just need to be able to let go and let some of this come in here, because how these things work, they can help you feel less stressed and let the brain reset itself. You can use this in the bathtub, you can use it at home, you can use it in the office, you can use it in the car, because basically you can sync it right in. Instead of having to plug all these things in, they're actually portable. And these type of things allow you to take them wherever you want. There's a lot of sound baths using them right now. Yoga studios are using them in Asia right now. I've been looking at that. And I thought, oh my gosh, this looks like pretty impressive stuff, right? And so I'm going to actually show you some of these things in here. And what we want to do is seeing how can you get some better sleep. And so again, these are just different suggestions, and we'll see if it makes, as Lisa goes, it makes good sense. Good idea. So one of the things in here, let's take a look at what we have, and we'll take it shortly here. Let's take a look at the sound here. So you can start hearing some of the sounds and the frequencies. These are binaural beats, and they can run different things. We can run 30 hertz. We can run all sorts of things in here. The things in here, this was developed by Garnett Dupuy.
So that you can have a brain that goes into activity and gets into rest. Here's something that should be obvious that we can address. Our brain is actually physical. We experience the mind probably like a physical brain. The brain because of exercise in the body. Yeah? Exercise in the body, exercise in the brain. They actually go together, but kind of either one thing. What have we learned? It's possible to have a more flexible brain, just like a physical body. It's possible to train the brain so that you can have a brain that goes into activity and then goes into rest. When we do so, it is a process. It's physical. We have a life. We can train the brain. That's for sure.
And those are something as simple as it can, doing something like that. Like I said, just even 11 minutes. So when you start seeing some of this stuff, really amazing, so let's take a look at what we can utilize within our grasp here that are not expensive. I haven't found another way to be able to simulate something like this, and now that we've got the different flicker technology, we've got the sounds coming in, and now we've also got, going in here, like I said, there are so many very cool things available to people, and we have to be able to take advantage of it. But we also have to be able to discern what's going on here, because a lot of people, like I said, they become absolutely, I think, over paranoid, about different things. So there are different things we have a right to be about, like AI and data centers and all sorts of stuff like that. But there are things that are natural that can really help move us into a state of relaxation. And that's actually what we want to do. We want to be able to protect our third eye, decalcify that third eye, and get into a state where it can really help people. Because that's where you're going to see, the changes coming in. And once you get those changes coming in, that can make a big difference. Because the larger the changes in the alpha brain waves, the more gradual the rebound of that alpha, the lower the levels of the theta. This is now going to slightly influence even from the beta when people are in, stress thing and getting into the deeper delta sleeps. So we have everything for every different type of brainwave you can go into, which I think is so cool. So again, we're not monitoring things. We're not doing a biofeedback. We're not doing neurosensors. We are actually going in here and basically going and putting in a stimulation of light and sound. Not we're reading, we're not doing biosensors, we're doing something along that line. So let's just take a look here. And what comes up with this is actually a brain. Look at the brain gain of this, right? So basically what we found is a single gamma NEUROVIZR session with sound and light, so binaural beats, solfeggio tones, noje tones, and all that kind of fun stuff, is it improved the heart rate variability, right, in 11 minutes. That's huge. If you know about how things are moving, that is a big difference. So one of the things in there, like I said, a lot of people, we have to be able to go in that and see. A lot of people they notice that their stress is going down, So not only is the stress going down about 14%, their serotonin is going up. Now, how much, and I love doing stuff like that, but I love it when you can actually get the backing and you can see repetitive things in here. So like I said, there are different programs and stuff people can go into here. And some of these things are about, going in and putting in some really amazing time, putting in some different things again for these sessions. And like I said, some of them could be for sleeping. Some of them can be for focus. Some of them could be just as, a few minutes here. So these are some of the key benefits I wanted to bring, people in here, because a lot of people are having blocks. They're having in here, I think that's really important as well, is that we can go in and use that type of thing here. And so what we know is there's a huge link between the heart rate variability and the biological age. And if we can do this as effortless meditation, that's the thing that I really like about it. Like I said, I'm one of those people, it's like, no, nope. I don't want to have the issues that, other people are having here, when they're going to meditations and stuff like that, because I find it, like I said, myself does not work with having a bunch of people in a room meditating. And again, this is what I like is the effortless part. I think that's the key that actually makes me most excited. I don't know if it makes you excited, but it makes me very excited. So let's take a look at that as well. So when you start looking at this, let's look at the idea here of woo, look like I went through a psychedelic thing, time traveling here. So those are some of the things in here too. So again, less than 11 minutes, right? And again, a lot of people, these meditations, I find too, that people are actually, they have their own ways of doing things. And again, granted, everyone's got the way they like to do it. But let's take a look here. Oh, it's still sharing. Now this is going to be all over. Okay, so in here, what we're going to do, we're going to look at that effortless meditation here. And basically tap into your relaxation, not someone else's voices. And again, we're just going to use the sound and the light to do that. Like I said, if you don't like something that close to your eyes, you can certainly detach it. That's why it's on a magnet. It comes on and off there. And so you could put it somewhere, across the table or something like that, if that's something that you would rather do. So any questions in here? So I thought, let's take a look at that. So I'll just show you mine is in here. And one of the things, like I said, is detachable. If you don't like it, that's how easy it is to clip, right? It just comes up and you hit your computer, and that's not a good thing to do. But there we go. Anyway, so those are some of the things that might be one of the issues. And like I said, you may not want it here on the magnetic part here. So basically all you have to do is, again, go in and detach it. That's all you have to do. It's not that big a deal. So it's very, very lightweight, right? I feel like I'm almost, like I said, I like it because it NEUROVIZR in here, right? And you just put it on the head and you clip it on. And the sounds in here are phenomenal. Like, this is one of the things too. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the program, because this neuroplasticity is huge. And we'll go through a little bit on the 12 senses and stuff too. But the NEUROVIZR is an absolute easy link here. So you just open it up and you get to try it on. You got all these programs here. So hard to read, but sleep, relaxation, meditation, brain gym, spirituality, focus, neurodosing, lucid music, dehabitation, that means addictions, right? And what do you want today? So there's more. Managing the moods, processing, being able to comprehend and process, micro neuroathletics. So those are and sports programs. So we have a bunch of programs like that. So one of the things that is really cool about this is that you basically can go in and choose whatever program you want. So in here, let's say if I want laser focus or a deep sleep, let's maybe do the deep sleep one here. So what we're going to do, it starts looking for this little box and adapter here, and we're actually going in and it's looking to see, and hopefully, I don't know if I got enough here battery, and it says found it. We're going to connect it and basically have enough battery here, and we're just literally go into the play. Okay.
Take a deep breath in.
So hopefully you can hear how easy this is.
And a relaxing breath out.
Okay. So again, you can use it during the day. You can use it at sleep. You can have it even clipped here. I could have it at my computer just in here. So it's starting to do a light. It's looking for it. Mine's set for 30 seconds because I want to be able to get into my bed, onto my massage table, underneath the blanket, get on my little pillow, and it's starting to do its syncing, right? So again, here, that's what we're doing. And then it's going to go through the sound. So, and there we go. We're into the 30 seconds now. So you can hear the music, right? And you're supposed to be closing your eyes. So again, these are binaural beats, hemi-sync. And again, always meant to be done with what? Headphones or earbuds. Preferably, I find over the ears are much better. So if you can get an over the ear, like again, headphone muff, the little thing that covers up, it'll work a lot better. So those are some of the things in there, just to give you an idea. We'll leave it over here and have its little fun. And we're just going to leave it actually playing, because I find even the music alone is relaxing. So if you don't want to use the lights, the options are you don't have to use the lights. So those are some of the things as well here. So we're going to go into the deep sleep. So hopefully everyone else will have a bit of a, better sleep this evening. And that's what we want to do. So I'm just going to touch base. Anyone have any questions? You want to discuss anything weird today? I put up again on my Facebook, on my special inner circle group, a lot of stuff to do with the AI data centers. This is becoming an issue. It's stressing out people. I know here they want to put one at Christina Lake. They want to do another one at Kamloops. My girlfriend's upset. They want to go into Pincher Creek. They want to go into Waterton National Park, Grand Prairie. People are getting upset. Just in Canada alone, not that I recognize the jurisdiction, but up here there's over 300 to 400 that they've got in there, and there's some that are starting to be operational. These things have been operational quietly and subvertly, and they haven't even been noticing people. Now you're being noticed, but they're actually there. They're basically operational. And I want you to see very much so what Erin Brockovich talked about today. Erin Brockovich is back. She didn't win all those cases for all those people with all the chemical spills in the water. She is now on this. I don't know if you know this, but entire lakes have been drained. the Rio Grande rivers have actually disappeared. Some of them are down even several feet. I've noticed things as well happening. So these are some of the things that we need to be able to keep calm. And this is why I want to look into patterning some of the neuro reflexing and the NEUROVIZRs in here. So as I said, they are taking, oh, you've heard too that they're taking the power away from Tahoe for an AI center. Now, one of the things I want to encourage you, as I've always talked about, all of us come from a tribe. I don't care if you're red, pink, yellow, red, black, white tribes, right? All the, as you think Europe is all basically was European, was all white tribes. All white tribes, and again, Siberian, Tartarian, Russian, as you think all the way there, that whole white tribal thing, you got to get back to that. Same thing like the black tribes. I've been listening to Chief Pontiac. He's talking how, the currency's going to change probably July 4th. He expects that to change. Effects down there, effects here, same thing. All the entire, you think, Commonwealth they're ready to switch over within about 2 months. And one of the things that he was very hopeful about, he said probably within a year or two, is that then will be transferred over those trusts and basically train the tribes how to do that, the matriarchs, the clan mothers, and the tribal mothers, right, to start taking that over. This is very important, right? You've got to be into a position of signatory savage sovereignty to have that authority or signatory power to do this. And as you've seen, there's been a few even tribes, okay? I've seen a couple tribes that they said no, and the local towns have gone to the local tribes and said, hey, we need to talk to your clan mothers. And certain tribes have been able to shut down a couple of the AI data centers. So there's something in there. What have we got in the chat room? I got a call out of the blue from Shelly Bowling the other day, last week. Do you know who she is? I'd have to get refreshed. Kind of sounds like I know, but I don't know. Can't say yes for sure. Anyway, so one of the things in here, very, very important, that we've got to get back onto doing this because we need to get relaxed. And one of the stuff too is that when you are looking at the light spectrum here, and we're looking at the audio things in here, but what we want to do is look at the EEG and look at the types of brainwave. And so I'm going to go into a little bit about the essential oils and a few other things that you could be using here at the same time. So one of the things in here, very, 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 very important, okay, is that we get the knowledge and that we can figure out what we're doing. So, yep, please send it to my Clemma, the 13, if you've got some information. Always happy to look at that. Okay, let's look at EEG. We have many different types of brain waves, and it's always fun. I used to have to do that in NIU all the time, right? When we had children seizuring and stuff like that. So one of the things in here, like I said, the base ones that you hear about, and there's more than just this, by the way, but the 4 base ones coming down the brain. And that's why the light spectrum that we talked about is really, 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 really important here. So when you want to go into your state of relaxation, and we want to talk about what does the 40 hertz do to the brain. Okay, this is one of the things in here that you're seeing. And so when you get into your state here of getting in and stimulating the different lines here, what's going to go in is that you're going to start getting the brain into a calming state. You're quiet, you're alert. Okay, you're not thinking where you're up there in the beta, but you're in a nice, quiet, receiving state here. And then you can get into a relaxed, lucid state, getting into deep relaxation, and then finally into the dream state. So these are some of the things that we want to take a look at this, okay? And a lot of people will talk about gamma being into awake, and then basically in your rapid eye movements. So this is actually what we want to do. We want to help people get into their states of consciousness in here. Now, one of the really important stuff in here that you're seeing is that when we're talking about that brainwave and getting into the states here and all those neurons and communications, that's what we're talking about here. So you want to get a heightened perception of where you can learn. That's where the cognition helps. And that's where we can start playing. So we have got in the NEUROVIZR stuff for gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and again, going into the delta to get you into sleep. Okay. So again, that's where they say, well, what are you doing? What's the 40 hertz for? Because it's just found that that's very, very common. So as we go into here and we start looking at things, what are those brain waves? What are they doing? So the gamma brain waves here between 32 and 100, we want to be able to go into the neurofeedback and help with this. So this is where you can do your own sound meditation. If you want to have basically meditation where you've got people guiding you, that's one thing. But the beta, this is where we're getting into a lot of people that, like I said, everyone's got issues. And that's why I love looking at the Genius, because the Genius will actually tell you how to do this. And this is what it talks about, how to train your brain waves. This is what you're doing. You're actually getting the brain into a beam trainability. So those are one of the fun things. We're going to talk a little bit too about the brain health. And we're going to talk about basically essential oils. And one of the favorite ones I have here is basically going in and using frankincense, cedarwood, sandalwood, and different things along that line, because that is what they're doing. They are crossing the blood-brain barrier. Okay? Very, very, very important. So these are the ones that you literally need to have. This is a got to have in your kit, got shelves, always. So let's take a look at the brain health essential oils. Okay? And it's not just about smelling them. I eat them. It's about putting it on the skin. Okay? Been known to actually improve cognition. And hopefully we're getting another storm here. So just in case we lose you, that's why. So in here, you can diffuse them, you can ingest them, and you can put them topically, you can inhale them. It's been a long week. Anyway, so in here, let's talk about diffusing them. What can you use? I've got one of those oscillating fans. If you don't have a diffuser and don't want to pay, and actually I think it's about $30, $40, you want a waterless diffuser. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So again, we want to diffuse it with a waterless diffuser. If not, you can take a cotton ball, a piece of Kleenex, and stick it in an oscillating fan if you have one that moves around. And I've been using it. It really freshens up when it's hot and everything else. It changes the molecular structure. So you're not using Lysol, you're not using Febreze, and you're not using Glade. You're not using incense. You're actually changing the molecular structure. Inhale, put it on here. Nice deep breaths up, ingest it. You can actually take it in water, in food. You can take it as, in your salad dressing. I put it in my chocolates. Great way to get it there. And again, topically. So those are the most essential things in here. So anything to do with aromatherapy and looking at the different things that we see in here, and even rose, vibration, all those things in here is, again, even all you have to do is Google this up here. Great for brain health. There we go again. As I talked about, use it internally if you want, like I said in here, or, like a capsule in supplemental form, or dilute it down with some castor oil or olive oil. Again, I use it every couple hours. Okay. So some of the things in here, like I said, it's not just about dementia and things like that, brain fog. We don't have to go that far, or post-traumatic stress, or as people think that they're targeted individuals. The aromatherapy has always been used there, and absolutely amazing, because that's what we want to do. We want to cross the blood-brain barrier, and that's what it's doing, right? You want to get the essential oils in here. So smelling through the olfactory, as I talked about, what it does is we'll talk about the 12 different senses here, is that what happens is it actually bypasses all the other senses. So you're going directly in there. So that's one of the things that actually, if we want to take a look at here, lavender, clary sage, frankincense, and I like frankincense, cedarwood, sandalwood is for the third eye as well. Okay, and again, what you're doing, you're binding, and most people do not realize the essential oils bind and they chelate and they buffer and they oxygenate. So those are some of the things that I think are really, really important. Okay, if you want to take that could be up to you. Anyway, so one of the things in here, we'll talk about what is a waterless diffuser. Okay, and I actually get a lot of things because most people have access to Amazon. They're all big corporations. It doesn't really matter at this point. But these are actually waterless diffusers. And what is the difference between a waterless diffuser, you may ask? I will show you. because again, I don't like to put mine into what's called nebulizer or water diffuser. So a water diffuser is right here. It's where you're actually putting the essential oil bottle itself, or make your own blend, or they always usually come with empty bottles. And what happens in the empty bottles is they make your own. So these are actually very easy, and they're great to use as opposed to putting it into a nebulizer. So that is one of the other ones. So diffusers, there's another type here. Usually the glass ones are quite a bit more. Even these, I want you to see here. So basically what you're seeing is that the bottle is going right into the diffuser. So there you go. Rocky Mountain Oils has it. Amazon has it. They all have it. Okay, so again, these are some things that you can take a look at. So whatever floats your boat, you can basically try working with that. So that's what the waterless diffuser is. Okay, so we'll check the room for anything else in here. What diffuser do I recommend? We just covered that. Brain health essential oils. Yep. Flower essences. You could actually mix flower essences with essential oils. Okay. And one of the things in here, I'm going to have to end this, and we will talk with you another time. Leave your questions for me, please. Oh, no, guess maybe not. Anyway, thank you. Let's see you and leave your questions, and we will end the stream today.